Chargers win this one 27-10. It felt like it was the Jameis giveth, Jameis taketh away from 1 week to the next. Although it was not all Jameis's fault. I think that we're going to dig into this. But let's look at the top 5 graded players for the Los Angeles Chargers first, as they did win this game. Edge rusher Khalil Mack, the ageless one, at the very top of this list with an 89.0. Linebacker Troy Dye with an 86.9. Derwin James Jr. an 85.7. Safety Alohi Gilman with an 81.4. Cornerback Taheeb Still with a 79.4. And then quarterback Justin Herbert, with a 74.7. You got to read, Trevor. It's part of the job. And then for the Cleveland Browns on the other side of things, defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson an 89.1. Edge rusher Isaiah McGuire with a 78.8. Edge rusher Zadarius Smith with a 77.8. Wide receiver Cedric Tillman a 75.5. Cornerback Greg Newsome a 74.5. And then quarterback Jameis Winston in this game a 65.3. Dalton, what was the stat that told the story to start us off here with this one?
We have a situation with this Chargers defense, and it's been the side
well-coached group, you say?
I would say so. When you have Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, go for it.
The difference, it's crazy. This is a defense that was so bad last year that really that changed. There's a couple of new people, but I mean Bosa, we're not even getting a lot of Bosa, right? Mm-hmm. Just coaching matters.
Actually, I'm watching the first half of this game. I'm going to go specifically with the first half because Jameis, actually, all 3 of his interceptions were in the second half after the game was already 20-3. The Browns ran 27 plays in the first half of this game and got 52 yards and 3 points. And on third down in the first half, they had a total of -6 yards. The Chargers defense right now, you know what? I'm watching the first half of this game, and we obviously watch every team every week, but I'm watching the first half of this game, and I'm watching, obviously, Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter coach this team, right? Minter's got the defensive side. They were both at Michigan last year. And I'm saying to myself, I was like, oh, that looks like Michigan. There's no big plays to be had. Their pass rush is nasty, even on a D-line that was really horrible for the last 2 years. It's a lot of the same guys, and they're just playing so much better. They overhauled it at linebacker, sure. They've got Derwin James playing great again. This looks like the same football team that Jim Harbaugh had at Michigan, where they're just so darn fundamentally sound, especially on defense, and it's so hard to beat them that you don't even really know what the answer is. I have no idea how the Browns could have scored points in this game. Because their defense is so much more, like you mentioned, the coaching. They are so much more fundamentally sound on defense than they've been the last few years under the previous regime.
Yep.
It's a whole different thing. They're right now the 5th highest graded defense in football. And I believe they've given up the fewest points. This Chargers defense, I mean, obviously the stars, Khalil Mack and James and Joey Bosa, but they're getting it from everywhere, at every spot on the field right now, and the execution's been flawless. A team with a quality of offense like the Browns or somebody like that, they're not scoring, or the Saints last week, they're not scoring on this team. No question. And it's just because how well they have talent. They've always had talent. It was the most frustrating part of the Brandon Staley era. They had talent, and they weren't executing. Now they're executing with the talent that we always said they had. It's incredible watching this. They are lights out on defense almost week in and week out.
I haven't really heard a lot of Jim Harbaugh talk for Coach of the Year. Understandably so, because I think it was Kevin O'Connell, certainly while they were 5-0. Now it feels like Dan Quinn is and should be the betting favorite. But I really didn't hear a lot of Jim Harbaugh. I just looked up some of the Coach of the Year odds, and it actually is the 4 that I'm glad are at the top of this list. Sometimes we just look at the coach that has the best record overall and we give it to them, but Dan Quinn's got the best odds right now, which at 7-2 for the Commanders, I think that's appropriate. Kevin O'Connell is next on the list. But him, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh basically have the same odds, and then you got Andy Reid and Dan Campbell right after that. That's great. That's actually how I would formulate that list. I don't think that there's any order that's inappropriate there, and I think that Jim Harbaugh being in that conversation sort of right after Dan Quinn makes sense to me for a lot of the reasons that you were talking about.
The only other guy I would throw in there is Matt LaFleur.
LaFleur is on here.
Him getting them through the Jordan Love injuries, and they're 3-0 essentially with Malik Willis, and the way he's had to manage all of kind of the difficulties they've had on offense. Matt LaFleur is the one other guy I'd throw in that group.
I think we're getting to a point here, and we are just 8 games into the Jim Harbaugh Chargers experience. But we're getting to a point where Jim Harbaugh might have the best resume of any football coach of all time.
He is only one.
And turned around programs.
One at Stanford.
San Diego, like the NCAA San Diego, University of San Diego, Stanford, which is we're going to look back at the Stanford turnaround because Stanford's most likely going to be bad for a long time, just like they were when I was growing up. Stanford's like 2-win team, 3-win team.
Now I got to look this up.
Is one of the.
I think I remember in the preseason, his only losing season, I believe, since 2009, NFL or college, was the COVID year when he went 2-4 in 2020. He has not had
and then he bounced back pretty well from that.
Yeah, he has not had a full losing season, I believe, since 2008 at Stanford.
I don't think the Stanford part of his resume is going to shine as bright because David Shaw had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 6 years that followed Jim Harbaugh leaving. 5 out of those 6 years, he had double-digit wins.
But they were not getting the caliber of talent that they had until Harbaugh.
Yeah. I
not
get
that Shaw's not a good coach; he's a great coach.
It's not quite the oasis that I thought that it was going
to
be.
No, but it's about to be though. Now, and I like Troy Taylor. Like, we don't want to get into this isn't the college football podcast, but anyways, just going back to Harbaugh, Michigan was floundering. The 49ers were floundering.
Good word.
Stanford wasn't floundering; they were just been bad for 100 years. And he turned and then we'll see. Now, I think the caveat here with the Chargers is it helps when you have a top 3 quarterback in the league. Are we right? We're saying that, right?
Top
Herbert?
3? I wouldn't go top 3.
I would.
I would go top.
He's top 5.
I'd go 6 or 7 probably.
Hater.
There's a lot. We can have a lot of arguments.
Yeah. The point is 5-3. The defense is sound. The offense I have issues with outside of Herbert. They run the ball too much on first down for no yards. I'm pro running the ball on first down. I just think at some point you should probably gain yards when you do it, and they don't do that enough. And it's what killed them. It's why they should have scored 50 points in this game, and didn't do it. But yeah, anyways, love Jim.
Now this is I really wanted to look this up here. So,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PFF College Football Podcast.
That's on tomorrow. Hold up now. Don't get early. Max isn't here yet.
So Jim Harbaugh went 12-1 in that 2010 season with luck. If you have to go all the way back to 1992 to get the next double-digit win season. And the head coach of that football team was Bill Walsh. And then if you go back even further than that, in order to find their next closest double-digit win season, it is 1940.
Coached by?
Clark Shaughnessy. And then in 1926, Pop Warner, which is what Pop Warner football is named after. So those are the 4 that have had double-digit win seasons at Stanford.
Jim Harbaugh,
like 1850.
Jim Harbaugh is more important to the sport of football than Pop Warner.
Wow.
This is what I'm saying right now.
All right,
we don't have numbers on that one.
That was actually a phenomenal rant. I'm actually glad that we went down that road. Most impressive for me is Derwin James, 82.5 coverage grade in this game, which was his highest since week 4 of 2022. He had 4 targets, only allowed 1 reception for 3 yards, 1 dropped interception, 1 forced incompletion. It was good Derwin James here. Certainly, if he would have come up with that interception, it would have looked like great Derwin James once again. And we haven't seen that in a long time, so that was the most impressive for me. Most disappointing was the Browns' offensive line, which continues to be an area where they really struggle, even with some of these guys back and healthy. DeJuan Jones was starting at offensive tackle instead of Jedrick Wills, so it looks like that's going to be the plan for them moving forward. But it's just it's not the Browns' offensive line that we think it is. And that's going to be a reason why we see a lot of these struggles here.
Yep.
Disappointing also in terms of the Browns defense. They got pressure on the quarterback. They got a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert, and they still allow 27 points because they just bust in the secondary all the damn time. Mm-hmm. Like you cannot have that much pressure on a quarterback in one game and still allow 270 yards or whatever, 250 in the first half.
And they don't run the most complicated defense either.
No, they play cover 1. That's all they do. Yeah. Cover 1, cover 3. So it's like, and this was not the case last year. And then when you're able to play man-to-man and stay tight to routes, you can, you can funnel outcomes to Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. You bust, even though they were getting a lot of pressure, you bust and you let Quentin Johnson. down the field wide open for a touchdown. Like it's
Can't
bad.
have it.
It's a happen, and this happens every week for the Browns.
Yep.
Trying to see if I had any other notes on this game. Do you have anything else before we move on?
Just he hit the nail on the head with the secondary, and again, this Charger defense, I got to credit their defensive line because that was a lot of times the problem. But you got Khalil Mack, like you said, ageless, their highest graded player. Puna Ford's been really good in the middle.
Love Puna.
Tuli Pelotu with 2.5 sacks in this game. He's been terrific. He was terrific in run defense for him last year. Now he's coming on as a pass rusher. Guys like Tahir Tart and Morgan Fox throwing in contribution. These are guys who, before this regime, weren't particularly good football players, a lot of them, and now they're just the cohesion you're getting on this defensive line. And look, they made a statement, several of them, through the draft, through the offseason, to get more physical in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Obviously, big names on their offensive line. The D-line's making it happen, too. This is a different Charger team than we saw last year.